All right, all right. Welcome to another live episode of the Bill DeMott Experience. I'm Jeff Townsend. He's Bill DeMott. Hashtag BDE. I guess I should have done that too, just to be as cool as you. It's Bill DeMott. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. We got music. We got all kinds of. I just said a man in his buttons. The creative mind is now really going to be. Really going to be up late nights now.
You know, I will say this. It does cost a little bit of money cutting into the funds, so cutting into our ad money here. But I think it's worth it. It's cool.
It's worth it.
We got a bunch of cool stuff we can do now and we can get into. And I'm just trying to verify here if we're live across all platforms. Hey, let's see here.
Now we got to get, now that we're live like that, we go with, we got Slim Jim. We get Slim Jim involved. We get all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, we're definitely live. Popping up everywhere, man. We are live. So let's step into a Slim Jim. Let's get that. Bring on the sponsor. Until then, our sponsor, of course, is JeffT-shirts.com. Why? Because I own it and it's just free promotion. So I should have got that scrolling across the bottom as well.
Yeah, that's a sticky note time.
So if you're joining us just audio only here, we're extra jacked up because we're streaming this live right now. So if you're listening on the podcast version, you're missing out. But we still appreciate you listening. But yeah, if you ever want to jump on and watch us, you certainly should. Live every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's important I say Eastern because not everybody lives in Eastern, Bill.
Yeah, I still don't understand the time zones, but I think everybody's Eastern.
You really don't, because when I've traveled or you've traveled, you've been like, no, this is Central Time, so I think it's 8 o'clock. I'm like, no, I got you, man. Yeah. I got you. Don't worry.
I remember that. That's right.
Yeah. Good week, man. Little Billy's taking off on his baseball career. He's this close to being the next Babe Ruth, I think.
Jeez, man, I was that.
Except for he's not a pitcher. But.
Yeah, he. I'm sure they'll all be walking in the door any minute now. My dogs go crazy. He as a freshman, he's the only freshman on the varsity team. He got called a couple of weeks ago. And like I told him, and he's so beyond his years baseball wise that he understands the experience and the opportunities he gets to play up at varsity, whether his time's limited or his at bats are limited or whether he's behind the plate or not, doesn't matter. He's soaking in the knowledge and getting ready for what the spring holds. And there they are, right behind me. Yeah. Well, if you're on the podcast, you're missing it. If you're live, you're watching my two goons.
I think if you're on the podcast live, because I can certainly hear the claws on the hardwood floor.
Yeah.
So I think they might get experience it to an extent.
They're so well, they're groomed really well. So they don't have long nails. It's just when Big Mano, he's like a Clydesdale. So anywhere he walks, it just sounds like
they are locked on something out there. It must be the family coming back. That or it's the neighbors walking by.
You see the blinds back here where I'm at, and Meadows literally pushed them up. They were down, and he makes them go up so he can look out.
He holds it up for the littler one.
Yeah, this is what happens in my day.
I have a really small dog, and it's surprising how they're able to get in the position they want to regardless.
They have no idea of personal space. Everything that's in a dog's way, they move to make sure they're comfortable. And they have no regard for their owners, which I think is great. But at the same time, I can't fight this dog because he's a monster. So
it's great for them. Not so much yourself.
Yes, you're on TV. Good boy, yeah.
Yeah, famous dogs. You wouldn't want my dog in here. She'd be shaking and peeing and God knows what else she would do.
I'm not talking to you guys now. Go away. We're live.
Yeah. Well, they've had a couple, they're not really dog fights, just some horseplay, I guess, on the air before. So it's not anything new.
Yeah. It's just and then once they know they're being acknowledged, it's like, oh, this is great. He's loving it.
You used to have that big cage behind you.
It's still in
and out of the cage.
It's still in this room, but it's to my right. And believe it or not, that's the smaller of the two cages.
Yeah, you got to have a a damn near garage to get that dog in there.
Yeah, Manny, he gets we built a shed in our bedroom, and he has just his own shed. We literally went to Lowe's and bought a shed and just built it.
It's awesome. So, man, on the agenda tonight, as you can see, probably if you're listening to this live, it was the topic in which you clicked on to get to here. Vince McMahon's loss of power. It's been all over the wrestling news this week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm so far I'm with you.
So far you're with me. Just to catch you up and everybody else up, I do have a special clip to share. I'm going to go ahead and source it. It's Brian Alvarez, Wrestling Observer, where I've been a longtime subscriber for over 10 years. Oh. Well, and I'm still blocked by Dave Meltzer on Twitter.
Wait, I'm not going to help you with that. I'm going to keep you permanently blocked.
I'm just thinking right now, how much money have I given to Dave Meltzer? And I got blocked. I'm trying to remember what I said. I don't remember what match it was, but I said if it was in the Tokyo Dome, it would have been 7 stars. The next thing I know, I'm blocked. Blocked, damn it. Unbelievable.
You're never going to make the PWI top 500 this way.
No, I'm not. I will never get any more interaction with Dave Meltzer on Twitter either. It's okay, though. Maybe we'll cross paths one day. So what I'm going to share for you here, everybody, and Bill, is a clip from Brian Alvarez. They actually, I think they cite Fightful and a couple other things in this, but this is the topic from Brian where he had talked about the discussion with Vince McMahon. And, of course, he throws in a little bit of opinion in it. See if I can get the right one here. All right, here we go.
For radio, Dave Meltzer gave an update on Vince McMahon being out of WWE's creative process. He reported last week that Triple H is the man making all of the key decisions in creative right now. He noted that McMahon is out of the process at the moment. He stated on Observer Radio the decision was made by Endeavor TKO Group Holding CEO Ari Emanuel. Vincent Kennedy McMahon was the guy making all the decisions. And now Vince was in fact overruled, even though when he merged the company he was told that this would not happen. It did happen.
Bank takes a little bank, doesn't it?
It is a really interesting thing. In the statement when Ari Emanuel was talking about the reasons the stock is down, and he mentioned Vince's name, it is very interesting, I think, what is going to happen. To be fair, I think that comment that Ari made about Vince when he talked about the reason the stock being down was more related to Vince's ability to do certain things with the stock that he owned, as opposed to him being involved in creative. But that's irrelevant because he is now out. Vince's power is clearly marginalized. There's no way around that. Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated reported last Friday that Emanuel was behind the change. Multiple contacts within WWE and UFC have confirmed that Emanuel, who wields power as the Endeavor CEO, is behind the change. Emanuel has long been a firm believer that in order for an organization to be as effective as possible, people need to do the job they are assigned. In this case, that approach has empowered Levesque to exert his full influence in the company's creative sphere. The acquisition of WWE was official last month. They merged, and Levesque is the chief content officer. So his job is to do creative, and Vince was just every now and then just doing stuff, and now he will not. He is out. As Dave noted last week, anything can change. But you know what? Anything also can't change. So hopefully he's out forever. I hope he never comes back.
Wow, that little barb at the end there.
Yeah. I told you he got in. I told you he got in a little goods there at the end, didn't he?
A little barb there at the end.
So let's talk about this. Bill, you've been around both of these guys.
Yes.
Vince McMahon. You've been around Triple H more, but working hand in hand with NXT. Was there a thought, and I know you'll be completely honest, was there a thought back then, so we're talking 2015, before 2015, that Vince McMahon was starting to lose his mind? Because additionally, I think when I read a lot about this week, a lot of people were noting 2018 and stuff like that, but people have been saying Vince McMahon's out of touch for 15 years. Was this something that was discussed openly?
That for my, my perspective and my knowledge, that was something that was being said when we first came to the company. So 2000, 2001, when we joined.
So people were already saying Vince McMahon's lost his mind.
And I think that goes, I think they, I'll put it towards football analogies too, because, the same thing was said about Bill Parcells. The same thing was said about Tom Landry, all these geniuses. And I say Vince is a genius, but a lot of people were seeing the trends, changing, but Vince had a set rules, guidelines, and how things were going to go, and that's what everybody did. So every once in a while, you would hear that, and I think it started coming a lot more when we started with the loss of Pat Patterson, with the loss of Dusty, with the loss of some of the legends that were there, and surrounding Vince, Jack Lanza, and all those guys I think everybody's seen Hunter as the guy for a long, long time. And I'm saying because now I'm sitting there thinking about the years. Even when I was still an active talent, it was still the thought of Hunter's going to lead this into the next millennium, however you want to say it. But every argument that was put up that Vince was maybe out of touch was shot down by the outcome. At the time when ratings were still a big deal and all these deals were being made, if he was so out of touch, this Fox deal never would have came about and all these other things. Creatively, I think he was a little stagnant towards the last couple 5-8 years. But he had Hunter there in his ear, and I think Hunter had a lot of conversations about it. But again, you had Vince and Kevin Dunn running the show, and they did it a certain way for so long. But how can you argue? It still goes back. How can you argue with the success of the WWE? So internally, there's always a lot of harums. But and here's where the internet comes in. Everybody else gets to share their wealth of knowledge about the business they've never been in. I'm talking about the shot taken by our friend there at the end. But yeah, I think it was time, and I think you don't buy a company for $9.1 billion and say just stick with what's going on. And I giggled a little bit at some of the news because it was funny. Vince was told it wasn't going to change, and then a month later, I want to say, well, hell, get in line with the I think there's about 300 or 400 men and women that could stand in line and go, yeah, we were told the same thing. So,
yeah,
wrestling is wrestling no matter who you are. But I don't think Vince is going to lose any sleep over this either.
Maybe I think I saw some headlights coming in. Maybe the family's coming back home.
I love that we're live and like people are just getting the deep dive into the DeMott mansion. They're going to come through the door and there it is.
I like it. You're getting excited. So if you're just now catching up with us, we're talking about Vince McMahon's loss of power. We just played a clip from Brian Alvarez, Wrestling Observer Radio episode earlier this week, a short clip when he's basically talking about what we're saying.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why do you think that after the merge and everything that's gone on, why is this a main topic in the in the world of professional wrestling? Why is it so? Why does it have to be said?
Well, this is a main topic because of what you just said a few minutes ago. Everything Vince McMahon has built and done. First of all, any wrestling news is a topic. So,
right.
I mean, to be honest, but I think it's whenever you have success, not everybody's always going to love it.
Right.
And when you've been creating television for how many years has Raw been on the air now? 30 years?
30, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to think about that. You're going to do a lot of things that people aren't going to like. And when you also reach that level of success, you're going to always have the criticisms, especially on the biggest sports entertainment stage ever, which is what he's built and accomplished. I don't know. We'll get into this more in this discussion, but I don't know what professional wrestling would be without Vince McMahon.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I guess I'm trying to get a different point of view of, we haven't really heard a lot about Vince since the merge,
Well, we've heard since the merge, but before the merge, we heard a lot about the different personal issues he's had and the paying off of women and stuff like that. But that doesn't seem to be like why some of these people are rejoicing and celebrating. They're not celebrating because they're not publicly saying, "Oh, Vince McMahon's a bad guy, get him out of there now." They're just saying, "Hey, this creative's terrible.
Yeah,
it's got to go."
Yeah, I'm much rather one of those people that would rather hear briefly Vince is out, Levesque is in. Let's talk about Levesque now. Like, because I guess my point is we've heard this for so many years as wrestling fans, as people in the business, as people who have followed this business for so many years. We've heard about Vince the creative. It's old. It's out. It's outdated. He's out of touch. All these things. I'd much rather. It goes back to the Tony Khan thing we talked about last episode. I'd rather more hear about the positive than bringing up all this other stuff and people focusing on, Vince is out. In the Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch was dead. That was the end of it. Let's move on. And I'm not, bad analogy, but I'd much rather hear everybody start talking about the Levesque era and what Paul is going to do and Triple H this, and let's spin the positive instead of everybody just. I think it's clickbait. I guess I'm just not that guy. So
it's definitely clickbait. There's no doubt about that. I can see people's arguments on Vince McMahon getting a little stagnant on the content creativity, but I got to also give it to him. This guy's people are like made the comment he can't adapt with the times and all that. Historically speaking, Vince McMahon's done a pretty damn good job of that. You got to think of how wrestling was in the 80s, 90s, then Attitude Era going into 2000s, then you talk PG era, then you talk public company. I think Vince McMahon's done a pretty good job of adjusting with the times and whatever he needed for business purposes. So I give him a little bit of a break there, but I think just like anything else, and this is so hard, and you'll hear a lot of experienced people like just Jim Cornette, Dutch Mantel. They will say things like, and luckily for Vince, this hasn't been the case. I think for Tony Khan, it's going to become an issue. You can't have one person booking, being the booker forever.
Right.
And I think Vince McMahon's had the ability. He's had a team around him. He has a writers, professional staff. But that was kind of in the last, I don't know when you'd say the writers and all that came on. Yeah, it was very limited saying there for the longest time between himself, Pat Patterson, Bruce Pritchard, then Vince Russo, obviously. I'm sure he's always taken in anything that was like an idea that was pitched and all that. And from what I hear from the stories back in the day, there'd be lines out of his office at every show, people wanting to talk to him, pitch ideas and all that.
It was, part of your job as a agent or now, producer/producer, part of your job was you were on call 24 hours a day. So there was a meeting. You literally landed after 5 days on the road of TV and all these other things, and you landed and you had a 2:00 in the afternoon meeting. And it was extensive. It was hours of back and forth and all these things. You got to TV and all those discussions were wiped out and it went with the original plan. So he was very, I don't know if he was very open, but that was the process, was everybody getting involved, but it was still the way he saw things going. And that's the way he did it. And to your point, and I'll never argue the point, you can't argue with the success he's had, even in the past 5 years where people said this is old or this is debunked or this is ridiculous. They're still watching. They're still coming to the events. They're still subscribing. So, and you said you can't argue with, success. I just, I feel like, okay, let's Sleeping Dogs Live. Vince is out. We heard it. Boom. Let's talk about Levesque. Let's talk about the positives and not keep harping on, the fact that he's out of it. I think that was probably the setup. There was a little scuttlebutt when Hunter was taken off the board and people were like, uh-oh. And I heard a bunch of ramblings that people thought he was going to be let go completely.
Yeah, especially after Stephanie bounced.
Yeah. So when he was taken off the board, but this is the plan in the works. Take him off the board, let him run, the company that way creatively.
Do you like the comment that Endeavor is basically saying people have roles for a reason? They need to be able to do their role and follow.
Yes, I love it. And listen, from what I understand, Vince has a great relationship with Endeavor and everybody, and that's great. And he's done what he set out to do all those years ago. But that's exactly right. To be successful and to be able to put down on a piece of paper $9.1 billion, then you have to have a strong mind and a strong business sense as well. So now with Ari, running the show going, hey, you have a job. That's your job. You do it. So now there's don't worry about being on the board. Don't worry about this. You're in charge of creative. You're the guy going forward. Have at it. And now Vince is still on the board. He's not done. He's just out of the process. He's just not part of the product itself. I mean, he still has, if I understand it, Vince still has say so in how WWE is run and things like that. He is part of the board.
Got a comment here from Facebook. We'll go ahead and read it to the people listening to the podcast version. Vince is definitely in Triple H's ear, though, and Triple H will listen to a lot he says. Vince,
oh, yeah. I agree with that. And I think because that's the way he's been groomed. I think Hunter's been groomed, or Triple H has been groomed to... He was in Vince's ear the whole time. Have suggestions. Have an alternative. Have a counter to what we're doing. But that's the learning curve, right? It's the learning curve. And Triple H has been sitting under that tree for years. So I'm very sure that who do you lean on when he's not there anymore? And no disrespect, man, when I say it this way, you go to the old man. The old man will have an opinion, and it'll make you think. It'll make you think differently. It'll make you think instead of being, with the blinders on, because that's a tough job for people that are listening and watching. Being the head of creative and being in charge of everything that goes on WWE, you just don't go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, wake up at 8 o'clock the next morning and, okay, let's see what we're going to do today. Hell no. McMahon hasn't slept in 50 years. Levesque hasn't slept in 25. So
those stories are true that you hear about.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they work out at like 2 a.m, midnight. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. We get to very rare where you wouldn't get to a hotel, depending on where we were in the country or in the world, where the limo pulled up with Vince and there was 4 guys and they stood out there having meetings in the limo for 4 more hours at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then everybody else calls it a night. And Vince is in the gym. And Vince is at the building when you're at the building. So it's not, it's not an easy thing to do. So I'm sure, and the person who put that up there was absolutely right. I think Vince will be, and I don't think he'll be in his ear like but I think he's going to be there for someone, for Levesque to lean on and to bounce things off of. And why wouldn't you? The guy, he's the reason there's AEW and ROH and all these other things. Whether people want to say that or not, Vince is the reason. So I'm sure he's going to be a confidant, for Triple H going forward.
How do you feel when people make the comment that Triple H is only in that position because he's married into it or politics himself into it? Do you think other people will say he would still be doing that even if he wasn't married to Stephanie McMahon?
People, I think when we say the people that are saying it are fans, internet people that are on the inside track that they think they're in on. The people, and it's not a shot at anybody either, but the people that are in the business and have been around it and are there 24 hours a day and see what goes on, Hunter was going to be groomed for that position whether Vince had a daughter or not. This was what you see his love of the business. You see his love of the success of the business. And what I appreciate the most is when he started becoming more in control, he started becoming less of an on-air character, I feel. And I think that's where he's learned his lessons.
Yeah, he definitely.
I'm not a big fan of people going, "Oh, if you didn't marry Steph," that's people who are repeating something they heard or read or something they don't know about. I think, and that's why Hunter, people think, "Oh, he's got thick skin and all this stuff." No, he's a human being. Things are said that are hurtful, and his family gets upset by them and stuff. But he understands the business and where those comments are coming from, and they don't hold any water. So,
It's good that you said that, and you can speak to that because you've built a brand with Triple H, with Paul, before being a huge part of starting at the Performance Center.
Yeah.
So you're saying that his really passion for the industry is at a level that nothing would have stopped him from being involved in the stuff that he's doing today.
Yeah, I'm saying that hands down. What people don't know, and like our listeners and people that are following us and tuning in, and people listening to Cornette and to Dutch and to Jim Ross and to all these great guys out there, and Jared, and what people don't know is people who know him though, but Paul Levesque is a historian, is a wrestling historian. He will sit and talk to you, not about the product that's going on Monday night. He will talk to you about the business. And he has studied the business. There's far and few between this generation. I'm on the, upside of going to be 60 in the next 2 years. So my generation of cats and guys that have been in the business, there's far and few between that are wrestling historians and can break it down for you. Not only the match, the time, the place, what the story was, how they built it up, what it meant, what they were thinking. That's what makes him who he is. And for the people that get to work with him, understand his passion and love for the industry. And that's why he has such a tight crew and people will now do the same for Paul that they did for Vince. They will run through walls for him because they believe in him and understand what his end game is. And the end game for Levesque has always been to further this business in the best way possible. And this is all a Bill DeMott opinion from what I know and my time with both Vince and Triple H.
I give them kudos. This has really been long-term succession planning. I don't know how Stephanie McMahon plays into this, or if she ever will again. That's entirely up. We don't know that.
Right.
But they've done a hell of a job with just Triple H, that long-term succession planning that would be absolutely critical for the company's future. Granted, I don't think Vince McMahon will go anywhere till the day he dies. I think he'll still be around and heavily involved. Yeah. But nevertheless, they've set, like you said, something up here that will go on, that then it'll be up to Triple H to eventually do the same thing.
Yeah, and I believe that's what Hunter's been doing for years, is building his team for that succession. Here's the other side of it. I would work for Stephanie McMahon as the head of creative as well. I think Stephanie's stronger business. I'm trying to think. Business sense isn't the word I'm looking for. The broader spectrum of the global part of WWE.
The brand, the ambassadorship of it.
Yes.
Ambassador. She's a great ambassador.
Yeah. But and here's another one who I think Paul relies very heavily on, and not because they're married or they're a couple or they're in love or they like each other. This young lady grew up in this business, and her father's a genius. And so I think they're just groomed. They were being groomed. And listen, it's a hard thing to sit underneath the tree of Vince McMahon. You got to develop patience. You got to develop a lot of things, and you have to have you have to continually fix your self-esteem so you're not doubting things like that. And so the perseverance that Paul has had and the love for the business, and he sees the opportunity if he just hangs in there and does pays his dues. Right there it is, wrestling, right? Pay your dues. And it's not just in the ring. He's paid his dues, and he will continue to pay his dues, but as he leads us into the future of what WWE is. I know that's a long explanation, but I'm a believer in Triple H. I was a believer in Triple H before I met him. I'm in WCW. He's in WWF. And then I got to know him, briefly, his talents. He was definitely on a larger plane than I was. So, but we never didn't get along, in passing. We didn't know a lot of each other until we started working together in 2011. And then sold in an hour. As a coach, in an hour of wrestling, who the talent is. By the time our first meeting was done in Nashville, I knew who he was, what he wanted to do, and I was in. And I was one of those guys who would run through walls for him. But
yeah,
he's amazing.
It's important to have guys like that with you, and a team, guys and gals like that, on a team with you. Other people that you think of who are just diehard Triple H guys, I would say William Regal appears to be.
Yeah,
he sure fought to get back to WWE pretty quick when he could.
Yeah.
Tony Khan was kind enough. I'll give Tony Khan that. You don't want to, and that's one thing I will say about AEW and Tony Khan. It seems like, hey, you don't want to be here, then.
Well, and if you listen to, I think Regal at the time, part of him going was he had the out already in his contract or agreement, even if it was a handshake. He had it stipulated that if he has an opportunity, he's going back. So something has to be said about Levesque's leadership and, what he's doing or wants to do. Here's Road Dogg back, right? Here's, Jason Jordan, who's not been a producer. He got hurt, and they groomed him because he was
IU wrestler.
Yeah, and I love him. Nathan Everhart's a great man. But you look at Adam Pearce. Now you look at the introduction of Nick Aldis. Triple H is a huge NWA historian, so he holds that NWA legacy very close to his chest. So look who he's bringing in and what he's building, and it's cool to watch from the outside in.
We'll get to more of it, Nick Aldis, here shortly. Yeah, and I'll say one more thing on the topic we were on. It seems like that Triple H with certain people does really have the ability to make others around him better. Yeah, I think you see the best of Shawn Michaels from a professional standpoint.
Yes,
when he is with Triple H.
I mean, you look at Shawn,
because you never would have thought Shawn Michaels would be
never.
Okay, I'm saying as a fan, you wouldn't think that Shawn Michaels would be doing what he's doing today. Just pre 2002, 2003 Shawn Michaels, you just wouldn't picture it.
Yeah, and I've been in the room when Shawn has told people, "I'm not a coach. I'm not that guy." I mean, he said I could have an opinion or maybe help you in a direction, but I'm not that guy. Look what he's turned into. And it's the fact that Hunter believes in him so much that he did it. Matt Bloom. So, people who go, and when I say people, let's talk about the internet, society here, the internet universe. And they go, well, why is A-Train or, all, Hip Hop Hippo and all these, how can he lead and it's because Paul understands who he has and what's there. And he knows what these people can do. Not what the fans have seen for years as a character, but what these people are capable. Norman Smiley.
Yeah.
I mean, you go Dave Finley. And so, but that's a revolving door as well. There's a shelf life for wrestlers. There's a shelf life for producers. There's a shelf life for certain people. But then there's other people, a la Pat Patterson, Jerry Briscoe, that have a long-term shelf life and are there because they're the people that could look Vince in the eye and tell him, you're full of shit. This don't work. Don't do it. And Paul has those people with him too. And I try never to curse, but nobody says you're full of crap. But he also surrounds himself with people that aren't going to just yes him, and that he knows will sit him down and go, listen, man, give this a thought. And that's from under the learning tree of Vince.
Yeah, that says a lot, certainly. There's well, let's segue to really this. Okay, so AEW eventually Tony Khan has to start building something like this. I don't know if you get that from the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. I don't know. I'm not around them. I'm just somebody watching. I just see the silly matches and stuff, and that's not obviously always an indicator of somebody's professionalism.
Yeah.
But from what you hear, and of course that's just hearsay, but eventually though, I mean, you got Jeff Jarrett there. He's had William Regal there. He's got Arn Anderson there. A lot of really talented people. Eventually they got to put together some sort of, and he even has some roles for like Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and we'll get to Tony Schiavone later, by the way. He's on the docket of listener questions. But he does have some people there that you think he could have. I know he has titles on him. I just don't really understand how he's utilizing them.
Yeah. I saw, oh my gosh, for Christopher Daniels.
Yeah.
The other night. Now, from my understanding,
Fallen Angel.
He works behind the scenes. He's
head of talent relations.
So if he's the head of talent relations, what is he doing on TV? So I don't know. While people have a lot of titles, it's very cool to have a title. I'm not diminishing. All those people who have titles have worked their way into those positions, but I still don't think they have any say or anything. I think maybe that's what they're trying to do with Daniel Bryan. Someone to kind of look Tony in the eye, go, it doesn't work this way, or we need this, or let's do this. Tony Khan, who clearly loves the business.
Oh, yeah.
And is a fan of the industry. I'm not sure that he's someone who can lead AEW for the next 5 years. And if he plans on that, he needs to build a team that A, is not afraid to look him in the eye and tell him to stop using social media. B, he starts listening to suggestions and opening his ears and his pencil to more creative ideas and, whatever it is. But because you have too many people.
Seems like there's a lot of ideas thrown around there. I don't know if they're all ran by, or I don't know what the process is. I mean, I'm curious. What was the process like? And sorry to cut you off. If you wanted to do something, I don't want to say go rogue because that defeats exactly what I'm saying. But if you wanted to do something on TV, what was that process like? You had to get that in front of Vince, long before?
Yeah, you had to get it in front of your producer.
Okay.
And there's certain writers that worked with, they had a farm of talent. These set writers would work with these 10 and so on and so on. So you'd have to talk to your writers about it and then talk to your producer about it. And even if it was the day of the show, you'd have to be working really hard to get that in front of Vince. So it wasn't just something, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people went off script and did what they wanted and caught everybody off guard, cameramen, everything. And there was hell to pay, and you didn't see those people yet, So, but there was a process because it was treated like a business. It wasn't a free-for-all of because there's no difference in the AEW locker room and the WWE locker room. Everybody in the NXT locker room wants to go out there and do a million things, but they're being groomed and told and shown and taught a certain way to do things. AEW, go do your thing.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Whatever that thing is. But now you're losing the people, a la Jade Cargill, who could stay there and do whatever she wanted, from what I understand was offered. And Tony said he offered her a great deal of money to stay. But she sees that there's more to this business and the opportunities that come with it if she learns structure. And for a lot of years, people said, the developmental center is just cookie cutter, and they're all going to be the same people. Well, Kevin Owens doesn't look like Drew McIntyre. Sami Zayn doesn't look like Roman Reigns. Go up and down the line. Seth Rollins doesn't look like, Big E.
Yeah, people are crazy at this point in time to act like NXT hasn't been FCW too, but really yes. NXT hasn't been beneficial. I don't even know how you could, but there are people that really feel as if nothing will ever happen with them. But there's nothing, just like any sort of developmental system, whether it be baseball, basketball, there's people that aren't going to make it.
Right.
You're going to try to develop them because that's what you're supposed to do. That there's people that are. There's people that will quickly. There's people that will take years. And we've seen that quickly And we've seen the years for NXT. Not everybody's coming right up.
Right.
And I think for people to be able, I don't even think you can really say that it hasn't been a success because it's produced so much, not only from a character development standpoint, you actually have them ready to go when they're on TV. I think it's the reps that are huge.
Yeah. I mean, they're still, the NXT talent are running more live events. Forget more live events than AEW is. They're getting the reps. They're getting it. And it's not a perfect science, but it's a better way of getting involved. And, the biggest thing for me now in this group of NXT talent, if you look at them, not a lot of them came off the independents. So there wasn't that bad habit or that bad mindset of, I know who I am, damn it, I belong on the main roster. And it was always the argument, don't fight it. Okay, you believe it that bad, there you go. And then they're gone. We don't see them anymore.
It's basically been said that WWE, I mean, I think it was Gabe that Sapolsky said that basically done scouting for the now, which is absolutely crazy. But nevertheless, to your point,
because they've learned, and I feel like they've been shown and it's been proven that you take independent superstars, bring them into this thing, and literally tell them, here's the playbook we have, here's what we'd like you to do, and they're there for a month thinking they want to go to the main roster. And once they're not there, there's the attitudes, there's the, people that have literally walked in those doors for 6 weeks. If you turn around and say, well, I'm walking on eggshells, that's because you heard someone else say it. That's because you're not happy with what you're doing. But the company is grooming you to be a success.
When you're in NXT, sorry to cut you off. When you're in NXT, do you remember a lot of people, hearing myself hearing feedback, it's weird. Do you remember a lot of people complaining about not making it to the roster in time? Or
I still have nightmares. I still have, listen, man, don't fight. And that was the thing I told them all the time. You're in your bed every night. Even when we go do live events, you're in your bed every night.
Yeah.
What are you going to do in a roster loaded with talented men and women? What do you bring to the table? Not what you think you bring. What do you bring? Creatively, all these things. And I'll use Sami Zayn as an example. And hopefully everybody understands, one, I respect the hell out of Sami Zayn. I'm so happy for him. He's amazing. But Sami Zayn wanted to stick to El Generico. He wanted to come out in the live events in the hood. He wanted to, because people know me and nobody gives a tinker's damn what you did before you got there. They want to see who you're going to be, what you're capable of. And the hardest thing to tell young talent or experienced talent, let them get to know you and see what you can do, instead of just telling them and showing them, this is what I do. That's the hardest lesson to learn in the developmental system. That's the difference, I think, between WWE and AEW. In WWE, they hold tight to the fact of, we know what you can do because we're paying you a ridiculous amount of money to be here in Orlando, where we're going to get you stronger from the inside and out. We're going to make sure you're healthy. We're going to make sure you speak right, you handle yourself properly in and out of the ring, all these things. Whereas AEW is triple Lindy, you're on third. So that was the hardest thing for the cats that were struggling mentally with why, and because all they heard was, this is developmental. So they took it as a shot. How do you get upset making $75K a year when you walk in the door to learn something? How? And if you stop being so, and here's the thing, some people said they could do it and they got brought up. Then they weren't the character they were doing. They weren't doing what they were doing. They were there for 3 months of maybe TV. Then they were there sitting and catering 3-4 times a day for the next 6 months until they lost their mind, got fired, did something, didn't make a shot, all these things, all these attitudes and things come back out, and you eventually show who you truly are. So the biggest argument day in and day out was, don't rush it, because once you go, you're not being sent back down to get better. Which is the big difference between now when Raw and SmackDown Superstars come down. They're not being sent down to get better. Now this is the third brand. Now they're interacting. This has been the vision from the jump. Like at any given time of the week, they're everywhere. So, I know that's a long answer, and because I'm so into this conversation, you saw it all the time. And the hardest thing as a coach is to convince people you're doing a great job. But I never wanted to say, are you getting paid? Because I hated that from people.
Yeah.
Hearing, well, you're getting a check. That's not why they're there. And I know that, but at the same time, don't ruin a good thing because you're the only one who's unhappy. I rarely had to go to a talent and sit them down because of something they did. They always wanted to come to me because of something they didn't think they were being able to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. That episode, I think the episode title of our previous episode was "What the Hell's Going On in AEW?" In that episode, we actually broke down how we thought AEW can benefit from a developmental system. One more question involving that. So, how did individuals handle it when you brought? Because part of NXT's success was also intermixing it with some people that maybe had been well established outside WWE, and what this would do is not only would it elevate the talent that are new literally to wrestling, it would also kind of polish them up, I guess, to the WWE way before they went onto the main roster. And so how did people handle like an Austin Aries coming in? Obviously, Kevin Owens had quite the name. A lot of these guys did, but some of them more than others. Shinsuke Nakamura would be another one, but even Sami Zayn, like you said, had a well-known was well known before he got there. But how do they handle it when somebody else come in and they're getting paid more, but their job's kind of different than those of a new talent?
Well, I'll tell you, that class of guys that were coming in and girls, Finn Balor came in and followed the process.
That's another one I forgot. Yeah, he was huge.
He struggled a little bit in the beginning. It was a little frustrating because he had these great ideas and the demon and all these things, but it's a process and he understood it. And here's what he did that no one else would do. He asked questions and sat and listened to the answers. He didn't ask questions to go, yeah. Kevin Owens didn't come in and going, I'm Kevin Owens and screw you. That's not why he went to the top. It was his attitude and how he perceived what was going. Was it frustrating for him? Yes, I imagine it was frustrating because you could call your own shots where you came from. We're just asking you to do this. Seth Rollins struggled with the structure of the company. That's all. I believe if you just let me do this, then I'll be the biggest thing ever. Well, do you understand that in order for you to get that way, you have to build that trust and show that you're a team player? Otherwise, why are we putting all this time and investment into you so you can go back and do what you want to do? So there was an investment, and I think a lot of the talent understood they were an investment that was going to pay off. But then a lot of them just got frustrated with the fact of, this isn't for me. And that's okay too. I think there was a lot of people that left the system. And I was the first one. If you're not happy, don't stay here. But don't burn a bridge on the way out. Don't act the fool. Don't go on social. Don't point the fingers. It's like anything else. It can't be my fault you're not succeeding when you're the one out there getting to do all this stuff. You just didn't like what you were being told. And then the other side of it, you had to watch the people that were bypassing the head coach, the person running it, and going to the top dog because he made himself available to everyone early on. So they all bypassed the system and went to the top dog. And I tried to tell them, what does that tell our boss about you?
Same conversation I have with people sometimes. Exactly.
It's so funny that after the fact they go, oh crap, I get it.
It's not a leg up. You're not getting a leg up when you're doing
you're
that.
not doing yourself because, listen, his job is the baby face. My job is the heel.
You've proven you don't trust the system is what you're doing.
Yeah, and so he's going to pat you on the head and go, no, we'll take care of it. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, da, 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 da. They come back thinking, ha, ha, ha. And all of a
Then
sudden,
he calls you and he says,
yeah, he going, guess what? And I go, I got you. But it was funny, the people that did that, and then, we had meetings at Full Sail before TVs and everything. And he goes, okay, go get this one. Let's sit down. And so they see it face to face. And in that room would be that talent, me, and Triple H. And they're thinking, I'm going to get it. When he's reinforcing what they're there for, why they're there, what they're doing. And he told them, you don't like it? Leave. Well, at the end of the day, no one wants to walk away from, at the time, 65, 75K. Even now, I don't know who would walk away from it. But the grass is, and that, trying to tell them from experience, the grass isn't greener on the other side. Maybe you'll get to do what you want, but you're not going to make that kind of money. And you're not going to get the experience, and you're not going to be able to come back here if you burn that bridge the way you're trying to do it. So I saw a lot of it, but I saw a lot of guys that were mature. The guys that spent a lot of time on the independent circuit were very mature in their approach.
yeah,
Owens, Cesaro, Seth Rollins became very mature in his approach. Roman Reigns was mature in his approach from the jump. He wasn't happy with it. He knew he was going to be a star. Everybody was telling him, but he fought his instincts and didn't try to rush it and didn't try to prove his point. And there's other people that just said, screw it, this isn't for me.
You talked about, and we'll tie this up with Vince McMahon, but NXT really being in a developmental center, performance center, really being an investment. I think another thing that can go missed, and the beauty of it all, really, they're developing more than like wrestlers too. Yes. Like commentators. Yes. They're so like they've made this thing, and probably more than I even know. Heck, I mean, there's probably other roles they're developing, but there's just so much more than the wrestling part that they're developing through NXT, through the Performance Center.
The whole business is being developed there. They brought on, they started a internship, if you will, with cameramen, with sound people, with, all of a sudden we're doing all the video game voiceovers down there in the Performance Center. So instead of flying to California, Connecticut, now they're all flying there. And now talent are getting to call matches. Byron Saxon, when he was done and on the road full time, would come down and call matches. Pull up any NXT matches and have them call them. Michael Cole would come down. You were learning the commentator side. You were learning the ring announcer side. You were learning the referee side. You were learning promos. There was a room built for everything. And you know what that turned out to be for a lot of people? That was a lot of work. There were 6 rooms with giant screen TVs and logins to watch their matches with certain coaches. Not the one you work with all the time, another coach with a different set of experience. That became, we really got to stay here for that. Because don't forget that FCW and Deep South and OVW and HWA, they all came from this mentality of you're there 3 days a week, 3 hours a day, everybody at once. And after that 3 hours, the rest of the day is on you. To turn into, we start at 8 o'clock in the morning. You're done by 5 o'clock. In that time, you're going to be in the ring. You're going to be in a gym being trained by a professional trainer. You're going to be in the promo room. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing your rehab. You're going to be doing all these things. And you're done by 5, 6 o'clock and you're going home. But guess what it is? It's a job. It's a job you're trying to do for 300 days a year. And so that was the hard thing for people to figure out. I had people fight me, say, I'm not going to your gym. I have a gym membership. Oh, okay, that's great, but you're being paid to be here. And we got the best trainers in the world, strength trainers. And, we had trainers that were fighting, trying to give, like every coach had to give their resume to talent to get them to believe in them. That's backwards to me. When you walk in the door and you got people that are experts in their field, you shouldn't have to be telling them what you do, why you do it, how long you've been doing it, how good you are. It should be, okay, show me. The girls in particular, forever argued that they didn't want to be in that gym. Why do we have to do that? So they get the answer from the trainer. Well, they'd go and talk to Paul. And then Paul go, you're doing it because of this. Oh, wait a minute. That was what the other guy said. I guess we should listen to him. And I think it's like anything else. This business, in your business and everything we do, it doesn't change, but it's just so funny to think that it's so much opportunity there that people want to fight it. And everybody thinks they can recreate the wheel and make it better. Their way is the best way.
And what NXT tries to do is cut through all that bullshit, basically.
Yeah.
And definitely great. So the brainchild behind NXT, is it Triple H? How much, since Vince McMahon was the title of this episode, how much he had to do with that? How much behind it was he? How involved was he?
I think the game show version of NXT was the writers and Vince thing when, the first started out the NXT thing when, the challenges, they had a superstar that was their mentor and all that stuff.
That crap, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a different way to open the door to bring in people and try to make it, I guess, interesting. But this NXT, now that was already owned by WWE, starting FCW, was the brainchild of Paul. And Paul had a vision, and I think Paul went to Vince, and he finally said, okay, take it and run it. Let's see what you can do with it. And I think it was I don't think I know. I'm going to say I know for a fact that it got so successful by the time we left Tampa and FCW and became NXT and we're shooting at Full Sail and built the Performance Center, by the time it became so successful, and the very first time people said it was a third brand, there had to be a halt to it. Because that talent pool in the first grouping was so strong that every one of them that went up failed. And I'm not saying failed on purpose. It failed because I feel like it was a little threatening to the main roster. But it was a success. And Paul stayed with his vision. And so we'll go through the history of NXT really quick. And they changed it. They took him out of it. And it was NXT 2.0 and they did all this stuff. But Paul stayed the course. The people in place stayed the course. They went with what they were told, but they knew when the time was right, it was going to go. And it's right back to where it should have been. And it's successful again. I think we can agree there's a couple years in there where it was just, it was truly a fart in church.
Yeah, and a lot of people left because of it.
Yeah.
They're on AEW television right now.
Yeah. And so now you got people going, hey, you're not doing anything with me? I'll go. Yeah. And I'll be a star because guess what? I'm not a star in a developmental system. I'm a star in a third brand. But I think there was so much competition. Everybody took it, everybody on the main roster, and I'll say behind the scenes, took it as a competition between NXT and Raw or NXT and SmackDown, that there was a little bit of animosity there. So there had to be, I'm going to say, okay, let me teach the kid a lesson. Let me slow this down a little bit. My opinion.
I'm sure Vince McMahon was part of the literal sense of NXT becoming financially, a huge financial impact positively on the company.
Yeah.
Take a developmental system, you brand it, and next thing you know, you have television deals from the damn developmental system.
Yeah. And
along with all the other positive things we talked about.
Yeah. But there was a lot of money that went into NXT, upgrading the sets and the lighting for the live events and changing, getting ring trucks that were actual ring trucks instead of renting one once a week to go to a show. I mean, my dear friend and my captain, Steve Kern, had a trailer he'd put in the back of his truck, and that's how the shows went. We went to having an 18-wheeler branded at NXT. So there was a lot of investment, and they weren't seeing, in their mind, that investment paying off. But then when those TV deals came through and everything else, well, maybe we got something here. And then it started to become a Raw production. It started to become these things, and it didn't really work.
It's a place of business, though. I mean, is what it is.
But it's a success, and I think it's going to continue to be a success.
We started off this conversation talking about Vince McMahon, and you've segued it in good fashion to Triple H. Like you had said, this is who we're going to talk about now in the creative. And for the record, I don't think Triple H wants to be like, I feel like sometimes Tony Khan like wants to get that Booker of the Year. I think Triple H more or less just wants to manage the business. I don't think he's worried about the accolades at this point in time, in booking or NXT or.
Yeah, but I think it's lessons learned from the regime before him. He knows that he can be the game can be a character 3-4 times a year, come out for a couple of announcements, stir the pot once in a while. But I agree with you. I think he just wants to do what he does best now and keep bringing the product forward. And he's got enough people. He's building that team where he's got enough people to do those things on camera and things like that. And I think that's the way ultimately that's the way you envision the business. But I can't imagine how hard it was for Vince to just step away from it all.
Yeah.
He doesn't play golf. He doesn't, he doesn't sleep in late and read the paper and all these things. This has been his life for so long. And I think Paul has seen that. So family's important to him, his girls and, his wife and everything. So he finds those times. And then he realizes that other people need those times as well. So I think we're going to keep seeing a progression of, the evolution of this business, evolution.
I think, so what do you think? We'll go ahead and segue out of this here. We got I think we had a statement here. Hold on. Let's see here. I wanted to say this. If I could find it anymore. Okay. Chad Michael Purcell, is Triple H an asshole like Vince was to people? So let's talk about that for a minute, and we'll segue out of this. Vince McMahon, do you think we'll see Mr. McMahon, the character still? And because he's really, it's been in moderation for years, right? That's when you talk about Tony Khan, you wonder when that'll be the case.
Yeah.
I think Vince McMahon certainly learned over the years, and Triple H now, like you just said, make a couple appearances a year, blah, blah, blah. He's not on television. So answering this question, is Triple H an asshole like Vince was to people? Is that a lot of that, this Mr. McMahon? And then answer my question. Do you think we'll see Mr. McMahon still?
I'll answer your question first. I don't think we're going to see Mr. McMahon, the character, back on TV. I'd be very surprised because of this day and age of social media and the backlash of things, and it opens the door for negativity. I speak from experience, right? So unfortunately, when, if someone was to call it, you have to weigh it out. What's the pros and cons of having this person back on TV or back in the company or as a character or things like that? So I'm not sure we're going to see him back as a character. And I think that's going to be a company decision that makes that happen. As far as someone being an a-hole to someone, I think this Chad, who said that, I think he's going off of what he reads and what he hears. Because I'm going to say this, Vince McMahon, the person, never once treated me any less than an equal.
He called you, right?
Oh, Vince was one of the first people who called me when
we talked about that. When your daughter, yeah.
But for the years, even if he had something to say, like I had an encounter with Vince over Ryback one time, and Ryback was doing stuff in the ring, and Vince was screaming at me. In the heat of the moment, that's your boss talking to you, and this is wrestling. And if you're not butting heads with wrestling, then there's no passion there. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel about it. And that's how the generation of people I came up with feel about it.
You were scared to death. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, because it's when you first meet him, you grew up. It's Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
But Vince McMahon, the person, I've never seen him ever treat someone poorly. Vincent McMahon or Mr. McMahon, the character, biggest jackass on TV, biggest heel in the world. But that's what people judge him by. So and I use this a lot of times when I talk, people, when people saw me, independent wrestlers who watched Tough Enough and grew up wanting to get into wrestling, they saw Tough Enough. When they met me, they only knew that guy. They didn't even know me.
Right.
But that was their judgment. So when fans come out and say, well, Vince treats people by, what are they going by? Yeah, I need for instance, like, you have to tell me that Vince pushed you against the wall, cussed your mama out and kicked your dog and bit your girlfriend in order for you to make me believe that he treated you like an asshole. Otherwise, it's just something you read, something you heard, something you streamed, or someone else said about him and you're jumping on that bandwagon. And I say that respectfully to Chad and everybody else out there. But we have to stop going by what we hear and start dealing with what we know. For you and I, we get to have the conversation because I've been in the pit with them. I've danced the dance. I've lived with them. I've worked with them. So no, and Triple H isn't that guy either.
How are they different as far as the way they're going to communicate with employees? How would you, if you had to sum that up?
I from experience, I think Paul has a bigger threshold for argument.
Is he more approachable?
He's more approachable to a point until you want to keep arguing the same point. But then there's a point where Paul will shut you down. Vince will not hear an argument. If you come to him with something and you don't have a counter to what you're coming to him for, conversation is over. Vince last
with a lot of people in the corporate world, they're on an executive level.
If I said to you, hey, Jeff, you said, Bill, we're going to do this. I say, well, Bill, do you like that? I go, well, no. And you say, well, what do you think? And I go, well, I really don't have anything. Well, then that conversation is over.
Yep.
Right? But Paul has a big threshold and time for people and gives them an opportunity and tries to smarten people up along the way. But if it's the same conversation over and over again, he's going to shut you down. But I think Paul has I guess it's going to sound bad no matter how I say it. His people skills are better because he comes from a different generation than Vince came from. And all the people that were with Vince came from that generation as well.
That's not a knock.
I just want to make sure I never want to be disrespectful to talent or anybody else, but it's the only way I know how to say things. Paul has a
modern.
Yeah, he has a modern approach towards things.
And modern understanding.
Yes. So he understands the mentality a little better, that people need to be coddled a little bit more at certain times and things like that. But as far as Chad's question, I've never seen Vince treat people like that. And I would never think Hunter would treat people like that either.
Well, let's segue off of that a little bit. Let's go into the next section here. We'll get to some listener questions and comments before we wrap this up. With that being said, Bill, what I'm going to share with you today is a clip that I shared today on this day in pro wrestling history. So, yeah, make sure you follow that on all your social media platforms. Great stuff. I'm going to show you the clip that I posted today. Let me go ahead and I want to make sure I get the entire thing here. Let's get the entire thing. Okay, so this was October 19th, 2003. So, wow, 20 years ago. At WWE No Mercy, Vince McMahon defeated his daughter, Stephanie McMahon, in an I Quit match. This took place in Baltimore, Maryland, which intergender matches were barred under Maryland State Athletic Commission rules, but WWE paid the fine in advance and went ahead with the match.
Yes.
And I'm going to show just a quick minute clip, a real quick run through of this match. Let's do that real quick.
No holds barred, I Quit match. Mob to defend him. Stephanie's not looking for. Oh my! Oh, come on, Stephanie! Yeah. Mr. McMahon. Oh, look for his eyes. Mr. McMahon is blank. Oh, Sable shoot. And now this. Linda. Oh my God! I'm rooting for Stephanie. Oh, he's satanic. He's demonic. Sable's got a upon Linda. Oh, get your hands off her. No. Oh, all right. Yes. Oh, here she comes. Stephanie. And there we go. She went behind. Yeah. No. Those two deserve each other. He's paying for it, by God. Mr. McMahon's done. His own daughter by the. God. Oh. What do you need the pipe for? Put the pipe down. No. McMahon's got a lead pipe around his daughter's throat. They're throwing the towel away. Thank God.
Oh gosh.
Payoff. I would say, yeah, and if anybody's been a fan of this business for a long time, they said, Vince, you'll have heard this where it's been said that Vince will never do anything that he asked you to do something he wouldn't do himself. And I'm going to tell you right now, Vince held back nothing on Stephanie. Stephanie held back nothing on Vince. They led by example. The other side of it is they're not trained professionals, so they didn't know how to pull anything. So
yeah.
Vince, and it was an understanding going in, Vince was going to manhandle Stephanie. And that's exactly what he did. And as one of the boys, when the McMahons went out there and did that during those times when the McMahons were all involved, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world because they went out there and did their thing. It wasn't about, well, that's phony or this or that. Like they went at it and they treated it like how they wanted everyone else to treat it. And, such a fan of that time.
There's no way you can get away with doing that today. It was a little bit much, choking your daughter with a lead pipe until the mom throws in the white towel, grabbing the mom and throwing her down and then making out with Sable. You could not do that today.
No.
So it didn't exactly share. Like I think I messed up the file when I uploaded it. I was in a hurry. It didn't exactly share right, but that was our segue out of Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
20 years, man. 20 years ago.
Unbelievable. It's 20 years ago. By the way, I'm a big fan of On This Day. Everything you put up is freaking
It's
great.
fun. It really is fun.
It bothers me because it's the time frame that bothers me. Not the stuff you put up. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was 20 years ago.
Bob Orton's cast.
Yeah.
Wanted to know what you thought about Sting. So what's happened here, Sting has come out and said that his retirement, he said in an AEW Revolution in 2024 is his final match.
Yeah. Good for him. I'm not sure it needed to be said on TV. One, I think the response was brutal. No one, because here's why I think it was brutal. That's not a wrestling crowd. They're not necessarily Sting fans. They're AEW fans.
Yeah.
So there was a couple Sting chants. You still got it. Thank you, Sting. All these things. Imagine that announcement being made in a WWE ring or WCW ring. Unbelievable, deafening. Would have went on forever. So I'm not a fan of him announcing it so many months in advance. Because then, oh my gosh, now if something, wrestling world, right? Something always goes wrong or somebody gets hurt or something like this, and all of a sudden he's not in that match. Then he's a a jerk for saying it or someone screwed the pooch. But I have a problem with people retiring and then unretiring and retiring and I feel like I don't know. I'm glad for him though, man.
But he's never really said he's retired though, has he?
Well, he retired.
He got hurt. He got hurt because of Seth Rollins' buckle bomb, but he never said, I'm retired.
I don't think he ever came out and said I'm retired. He just said he was done.
Well, you got to give him that. I don't think he's ever had a big old retirement.
But I think if he stays to his guns on it, well deserved. I'm a big fan of him as a person and as a character. I hope he goes out. Like I would love to see Sting go out the way Sting would go out, not jumping off a scaffold or something, something like that. So I do agree. Somebody now is saying, well, I wonder who his opponent's going to be and all these things. I hope they make it really special, because he's a special kind of guy. I think if Tony Khan was thinking business, Steve Borden would stay on in some capacity to help him and help the company move forward. But I thought it was great. I'm one of those nostalgic people who goes, I think he deserved a better response than that. I think it could have been done in a better. And I mean, I'm saying that selfishly as a fan and as a person who has the utmost respect for him. I would have liked to have seen it meant more, because you never want to come on, hey, this is my last match, and people are like, okay, cool, what's next?
Yeah.
So I think it's big news. But here you go again. Let's look into it. Okay, Adam Copeland comes in, Sting's retiring. So we're just trading stars off and on. If you really want to read into it and make a mess, but I'm a big fan. I will be watching that one, so you can put me down as saying that pay-per-view or live event or whatever it's called. I will be watching that one because I'd like to see it.
Do you? I'll say this before I go on to the next. I'm happy Sting got to make some more money. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
He's been in a weird booking scenario, but then again, there's only so much he can do. So I think hopefully it's a good booking and it just all wraps. I don't think there's anything that could happen that'll take away from anything that he's done. I'll say that, but I'm hoping it's a good last moment.
Yeah, that's what I think I was trying to say. I hope nothing tarnishes the whole career,
And I don't think it could at this point, nor would he let it.
I don't think so either. And a new generation of fans were introduced to him. I hope they, it's one of those things. I hope they go back and Google all the stuff he's done throughout his career and go to YouTube and watch all his stuff to really appreciate what he's meant and what he's done in this business. So I'm a fan, and I'm going to be watching that.
The All Elite Cronies. Twitter name. Twitter name. Oh, cronies. I haven't heard that in a while. Do you support WWE's partnership with Saudi Arabia and the Crown Jewel events? I think what they're referring to is probably the humanitarian issues that come into play with Saudi Arabia. They get a lot of money to do it.
Well, that's just it, right? I think in business, not just in wrestling, in business, if there's a lot of money involved, people will find ways to find a loophole to justify what they're doing. I don't
look how many, even golf. They've got golf tied up. They've got golfers going over there for $1 million.
Soccer, all these things. I don't believe there's a place in wrestling for politics. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in wrestling who are involved heavily in politics. I'm not one. So when someone's going to Saudi Arabia, and I think this has happened and still goes on, if the talent are not comfortable or don't believe in it, they're told they don't have to go. No harm, no foul. I think as long as they keep that those guidelines there for people who do have interest or thoughts or feelings about it, or things like that, if they're allowed to stay out of certain things, I think that's okay. But as far as wrestling, you go around the world. Well, it'd be the same. I think people can make the argument of tribute to the troops and flying over to Iraq all the time and putting everybody in jeopardy. So I think there's always going to be an argument for it. I don't look at it that way to answer the elite cronies. I don't ever look at it that way. I don't go, how dare they do that? Now, don't get me wrong. You don't go to, like at 9/11, you were going to set up a ring when all that happened. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody looks to press the boundaries that much. And I think you're always going to find people to read into it a little bit. But I don't combine the two. So I personally don't ever look at it like that. I appreciate the fact that people who are affected or have family or something like that don't feel they should be a part of it or need to go. I like that. And that's where the business has changed again. That's where they have that right to speak up and things go on.
Winter Hale on Twitter. I don't want to get too deep into this one today because we have 1 million times.
Okay. Bill,
sounds like there will be no CM Punk at WWE. What about Impact? We touched up on that last week quite a bit.
Yeah, I think Phil finds a way to keep himself relevant. I think Impact would be good for him. I don't think he's going to go back to WWE. I just don't the right place and time. And now I think with the UFC merger and things like that, maybe there's no place for him. But I think Impact. But I don't think it's going to be a long-standing thing. So I think he can make an appearance, maybe a couple shots, and who knows. But I think for me, I've moved past this CM Punk subject, and it's not a knock on Phil at all. It's just let that go. Don't worry about where you're going to see him. If you see him, decide for yourself what you think about it. But I don't think he's going to be in WWE.
Vince McMahon's mustache. Can you guys believe that Michael Cole missed yet another Monday Night Raw this week? This is the third time he's missed a night of commentary in 25 years. I think he's being a smart ass.
What I love about that is the sarcasm is right there in front of you. So I appreciate the fact that he's putting Michael Cole over. It's funny how it works out that it was the the season debut or whatever it was called.
Yeah,
works out that way.
He had a commitment or something.
Yeah, but 3 shows in 25 years.
That's insane.
It's insane. And the fact that his presence was missed so much. And that's one of those things I appreciate when people go, oh, no, Michael Cole. But a lot of people went to the negative. No, the guy just,
had him planned day off.
It's like Jerry Lawler. You knew when Jerry wasn't there, it had to be a reason, right? And it was his health. And okay. So now, everybody making it. But I appreciate Vince's mustache for the sarcasm and putting Cole over. Because it's almost like, well, how dare anybody read into it? 3 times in 25 years.
People get sick and stuff, and Michael Cole has only missed 3 days.
And listen, and not just 25 years of one show, in 25 years. I think some people think Michael Cole gets on a plane and goes home after Monday night. Michael Cole flies to Orlando. Michael Cole works with people in these things. Michael Cole is a leader behind the scenes in the WWE machine. He has a lot more responsibilities than just what he does on the air. So 3 days, but I think it's really cool that when a guy like Michael Cole is missing, people pick up on it and go, uh-oh. So I appreciate his sarcasm. That's why Vince's mustache is my number one guy on this show.
I'm going to wrap things up here with this one. So Tony Schiavone recently asked to get back into play-by-play. He was given the duty of doing just so on Collision. Also, Tony Schiavone was named 2024 Gordon Soley Award recipient by George. It's the Lou Thesz Hall of Fame, which is sitting behind you right there. Yeah. You heard about the news, I'm sure, Tony Schiavone. What did you think? And he's back on play-by-play, which I thought was a little strange, but nevertheless.
Big fan of Tony Schiavone.
Oh, yeah.
Tony Schiavone, from the day I walked into Atlanta, treated me like I belong there. Utmost respect for his knowledge of the business and the fact that he's a huge baseball fan. Tony Schiavone's another one that Tony Khan would benefit from if he listened to, I feel. Congratulations to Tony on this upcoming year's induction into the Hall of Fame with the Gordon Soley Award. Well deserved. I'm not sure. I don't like Tony Schiavone in the role and I guess I'll say the other night when Wardlow brushes by him and Tony takes a bump and all this stuff, it takes away from who he is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Tony go down that road. Schiavone, I don't want to see him go down that road of becoming an on-air character. He's too good at what he does. He brings too much to the table to become a flop guy now or just to be a filler or something like that. So I think Tony's biggest asset to this company, I think, would be behind the scenes. Don't get me wrong. Nobody beats him on commentary, what he's doing. I think he does a spectacular job. I don't care for the becoming that on-air character. You know what I mean? But big fan. I think Tony can do a lot of good for AEW if it's done the right way.
Man, another fun recording tonight with some new gizmo and gadgets that we played. Only one road bump there, but we got through it, man. What did you think about today's conversation and some of the interactive things we're doing?
Yeah, first of all, that road bump was even cooler because I got to see you pull it up on your page and Twitter page and stuff like that. So I say it all the time, and I'm going to give you your flowers every freaking time. Dude, the stuff you're doing to advance this, the Bill DeMott Experience, and it's not the Bill DeMott Experience, it's the Jeff and Bill Experience. What you're doing and how you're doing in this new format is exciting. I love interacting with our followers, the fans, and people who just have questions. I love the brutal honesty, and I appreciate you and I having conversations where we can share our opinions openly, not, be afraid to say what we're thinking or what we feel about it, and realize it's all for the same thing. I love it, man. We're just getting better and better, and you're doing an amazing job, dude. And I hope you find more buttons and crazy stuff, because this is really cool. I can't wait till we have guests and there's 3 of us on the screen and we're doing all that stuff.
Yeah,
we don't need Conan and Disco.
Conan and Disco, and like I said, I think I told you last week, Conan is a cool dude.
Yeah, he is. He's my
And
point.
reached out to me on Twitter to ask about what I thought of the show and all that. So just go and I talked to Joe, who produces the show. He's like, yeah, he does it all the time. I was like, that's super cool to make sure you go up. If somebody's showing interest in what you're doing, to go out of your way to thank them. And I think that's really cool of him, because a lot of people don't take the time to do that.
Right. They worry about themselves, and that's it.
So kudos to Conan and the team there.
Much respect to the K-Dog.
Well, Bill, we have a bunch of episodes that people can go listen to from the past. They should go to BillDeMott.com to do so. I say that because there's YouTube videos up there. There's the audio up there. There's the links to all the podcast player platforms, the Bill DeMott Experience. Contact us on any social media. I'm at Podcast Father. He's at Bill DeMott, BillDeMottPod@gmail.com. Did I get everything there?
I think so. Yeah. Hit us up on social media. I love to see I see a lot more questions and suggestions and things coming up. And hey, I'll retweet you and follow you and do whatever we got to do. I appreciate everybody's input and what they're doing. And again, this experience gets better each and every week. And I'm excited. I'm excited every week about what we do.
It's an amazing experience, man. It's everybody's experience, I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm going to say to close it off? What do you have to say before we do that? Then we'll hit the cue of the outro music and we'll be done.
Here's my thought for the rest of this week. Somebody somewhere can be affected by what you do or say. And if you know that, maybe we can lift them up. We don't know what kind of day somebody's having. Maybe we can lift them up. And in turn, somebody will do the same for you.
Well said. Well said. Everybody should practice more of that for sure. Keep practicing that and keep being you and keep being great.
Don't let mama